Hello everyone, it's so good to be here yet again. It's been quite a while since the last time I talked about a video game on this channel, and I just have to talk to you about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. This is truly an intriguing puzzle game developed by Simogo. Frankly, I didn't know anything about them before, and I discovered them totally by accident. One of my colleagues happened to be talking about their previous game, Sayonara Wild Hearts, and that was quite an interesting discovery. And lo and behold, a few days later, their latest game, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, would release, which is back in mid-May of 2024, so it's been a minute now that it's been out in the wild. And I did check it out upon release, gave it a little taste, and immediately I knew that there was something special here, but I wasn't quite ready to play it. I wasn't in the right mindset. And now, several months later, I kind of dived back into the world of Twin Peaks, which totally put me back in this esoteric puzzle solving mindset, which is exactly the kind of mental state you want to be in for this kind of gaming experience, because truly this is a very esoteric and obtuse kind of gaming experience. The way I would describe it to my friends and colleagues is, imagine if Silent Hill 1 and The Witness had a baby together. Sounds kind of wild, but it works. Now, to go over a brief synopsis of what you could expect in this game, you're playing this woman who got summoned to this old hotel somewhere in Central Europe. We're not exactly sure where. In any case, you're caught in this web of illusions and seemingly endless puzzles. This is quite the Rubik's Cube labyrinthine kind of gaming experience that will totally consume your mind, if you let it. And this is the kind of game where absolutely nothing is explained to you. Though one might argue that, in fact, the game tells you everything you need to know. You just might not necessarily realize it from the start. The first puzzle games that grant you access to the hotel are fairly simple enough. I mean, they are tutorials after all. But the moment you enter the hotel, I remember being distinctly shocked because room after room you encounter several puzzles within that single room. Locked doors, puzzles, and whatnot, where you just have no idea what to do. And it's not even a question that the puzzles themselves are hard, it's just that at first blush, you don't even understand how to begin approaching them. And even in some cases where the riddle that is presented to you is relatively simple to extract the code that would be the solution for the puzzle, how you translate that information into a successful sequence into the combination of the puzzle, that's the million-dollar question, and it becomes quite the mystery. And it only gets better because you quickly realize that the game gives you no feedback whatsoever on if you're getting closer to the truth or not. It's literally a binary status. You get the right answer or nothing. So as you can tell, this could be a frustrating experience for a lot of players. It is very much an acquired taste. This definitely will not be everyone's cup of tea, especially if you're a AAA action kind of gamer. You're probably just going to be pulling your hair out from the start, because things don't get simpler the further on you go. They get more experimental, challenging, and frankly kind of weird. Yeah, this is a game that's going to demand some serious mental gymnastics from you from beginning to end. And it's an amusing detail, but the game's manual itself recommends you to bring a notebook to just literally draw out the problems on paper. That is, if you even find the in-game manual in the first place. This very much recalls me of that moment in Silent Hill 2 at the very beginning of the game where you could potentially miss the entire world map of the game from the start. God forbid that should happen. In any case, that aside, I do recommend you get yourself a paper and pencil to write out the ideas, because unless you're a genius, you're going to struggle so much if you don't draw things out. And once I found myself annotating things and engaging deeper with this game, I found myself to be completely enthralled with the experience. I literally became that dude from the conspiracy theory meme. Both at home, my desk at work, I had post-its, sketches, screenshots on my phone, tablet, PCs. I was totally consumed by the experience. So much so, one day I was just racking my brain the whole day on and off about this specific puzzle, and at one point I had a eureka moment in the bathroom. I just literally shouted out. The dude next to me was kind of freaking out, like, is this guy okay? Is he crazy? I was fine. I just had a light bulb moment. Didn't matter where I was. Yeah, that's how invested I became in the game. Strange anecdotes aside, I genuinely believe that this is one of the best puzzle games I ever played. Certainly one of the very best of this year. It is so abstract, experimental, and fiendishly clever and unique, and is always satisfying to finally come to a solution to any of its numerous puzzles. And it becomes even more satisfying when you start connecting dots between older puzzles that you're previously stumped on, but also when you start getting in the flow with the newer ones where you start to click like, aha, I know how you're thinking, game. And it's also interesting how you start to understand the world lore the further on you go in the game. And speaking of the lore, indeed the story is very lore and history based. It's not so much of a driven narrative as we have in many story games. It makes me think a lot more of this mystery detective like story where all the information you're gathering and all the puzzles are kind of teaching you about the world, which is a really interesting, unique, and intrinsically engaging experience for the player. And as far as the art direction goes, I think it's lovely. There's this very engrossing black and white aesthetic about the game, which perfectly matches the eerie, haunted, desolate slick quality of this old hotel in the middle of Europe. And though at first glance it seems to be this minimalistic, simplistic art style, there's quite a lot of detail buried within. In fact, all the visual designs of the puzzles are not only lovingly crafted, but have quite a lot of variety. Yes, there is quite a lot of reuse, but the way they're reused is quite ingenious, and there's an incredible variety that's created. I mean that both in terms of the visual and also in terms of the gameplay design of the puzzles. And though this game is primarily black and white, there are these very vibrant and pronounced splashes of this hot pink color in the game. I don't want to go too much in detail of what that is about because I don't want to spoil the surprise for you, but it is an interesting twist to the game, and it creates a rather walloping effect in terms of the gameplay experience and the narrative. And this really makes me think back once again to an experience like Twin Peaks, especially with the Black Lodge. In any case, though, I do think this is a very detailed and layered world that they've created. There's still a very lo-fi quality about it, either in the tank controls of your buttoned up protagonist over here, whoever she is, or in the laborious navigation of your menu, because you have this photographic memory that stores all the information you discover throughout the game. And well before the end of the game, there's quite a lot that you discover. But I think one of the elements that best describes that lo-fi quality is the actual save stations, which is this like old clunky computer that almost has this like dial-up sound. And speaking of the sound design, it is quite minimalistic and sparse in many ways, but there's still a very appropriate soundtrack created over here that perfectly suits the ambience of this experience. But as much as I do love this game, there's one point of criticism that I can't help but feel about it, and that has to do with the user experience of the menu navigation. I wish to God that there were a back or return button, because literally every single button in the game, whether it's the face buttons or the bumpers, they all have the same on and off activation, regardless if it's in the menu or interacting in the world itself. So as I mentioned, you have this photographic memory that gets more and more loaded the further you go in the game, and if you want to exit the menu, you can't just press one button to go back into the game. You have to exit the item you're reading, then go all the way to the top to the X, click that X, and then go all the way to the top of that new menu to click the X to return back to the main menu, and then go to its final X to go back into the main game. And this is something you do over and over and over again. I get that they want to have this lo-fi, clunky, obtuse kind of aesthetic quality about it because we are in this old abandoned hotel that's kind of like a relic of the past. But frankly, I think if we would have had that back button, I don't think it would have damaged any of that aesthetic quality. It would have just made the experience that much smoother because you will be using this menu thoroughly throughout the game. But in any case, even with that kind of criticism, this is truly one of the most engaging gaming experiences that I had all year long. This, along with Animal Well, are the golden standards of puzzle design. That on its own makes it an instant classic in my mind, but pair that with the super compelling aesthetic, it becomes a sensational package whole. So yeah, I'm ranging from a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10 on this one. I'm totally blown away by this game. It might be a little niche and a little bit too much of a brain teaser for your average Joe, but as far as I'm concerned, this is low-key one of the best games of 2024. So with all that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.